Recently, the 2023 NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets ended, and many people are disappointed with the result. For those hoping for a long, competitive series, sorry to break the bad news, but it ended in a quick 5 games, which most people weren't expecting at all. For the entirety of the 2022-23 NBA season to just end in a finals that only is 5 games is very underwhelming, very anticlimactic. And as far as NBA Finals go, this was one of the weakest we've seen. So that made me wonder, which of the recent NBA Finals was actually the best, and which were the worst? We'll be looking at all the NBA Finals of the past 10 seasons, for time reasons and for the fact just to see how the current era NBA Finals played out. So we will be ranking all the way from the 2014 Heat Spurs Finals up to today's Nuggets Heat. If you guys do enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really like this video concept. It actually was recommended by one of my viewers. Also, stay tuned for next week's video, which will be ranking all the college basketball championship rings from worst to best. With all that out of the way, let's rank these past 10 NBA Finals from worst to best. Coming in at number 10 as the worst finals in the past 10 seasons, I'm sure everybody can guess this one. This is the 2018 Warriors vs. Cavs series. This was the only sweep in the past 10 years, and that explains a lot. A very non-competitive series besides Game 1. After that, it was all downhill. Everybody knew the Warriors were going to be victorious from the start. The star power of Durant, Curry, and Thompson is just way too powerful for any other team to rival. And even though LeBron was having a historic season, he had no help. One of the only saving graces of this series was how LeBron was playing at an insane level, and we can see that in Game 1 where he went absolutely off. And another silver lining from this finals was Kevin Durant's clutch shot in Game 3. But besides that, the series was over way too quick. Nobody likes a sweep in the finals. It was uncompetitive, even though the star power was heavy. And that is why it's placing at number 10. At number 9, we have the 2014 finals between the Spurs and the Heat. Now, very contrary to the finals before this, the 2013 finals between these two teams had some amazing moments, such as going to Game 7, Ray Allen's clutch 3, Chris Bosh's block, and the list goes on. But the sequel to that NBA Finals disappointed heavily. The Spurs absolutely destroyed the Heat in this NBA Finals, winning in 5 games. And in those 5 games, each of the Spurs' 4 wins were blowouts. The one game where Miami won, it was a close game. They won 98-96. So that was a competitive game, but besides that, Miami put up a stinker throughout the entire series. San Antonio was in control the whole time. Kawhi, Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili were dialed in. And this finals was over the moment it started. At number 8, we have another series that ended in 5 games, and this is actually the 2017 matchup between the Warriors and the Cavaliers. The first finals matchup between these two teams where Kevin Durant was a member of the Warriors, and that is why it was so lopsided. Clearly better than the 2018 finals, and in my opinion better than the Spurs Heat finals just due to the fact that this was a rivalry during that time. And it's always great to see Kevin Durant against LeBron James in the finals. The games were slightly more competitive than the Heat Spurs series mentioned previously. There were 2 close games instead of 1, and the blowouts weren't as hectic. But still, overall, clearly everybody who watched this finals wished the series would have gone on longer, and that just did not end up happening. The Warriors with Kevin Durant are quite literally a cheat code, unless obviously a major injury or something of that nature occurs. When this team was fully healthy, nothing was going to stop them. At number 7, we have the bubble ring 2020 Lakers vs. Heat. Now, huge prop to the Lakers. They get a lot of crap because of LeBron, and everybody says that the Mickey Mouse ring shouldn't count, but in reality, it actually is one of the toughest earned rings ever. I have a whole video on it, feel free to check it out. But although this was a tough earned ring from the Lakers, from an entertainment perspective, this finals, honestly, I could have placed lower, but due to it going to a Game 6, I had to put it above the rest. So some of these games were competitive. Jimmy Butler playing his heart out, LeBron James going off as he always does in the finals. A surprisingly entertaining finals for what we got. This finals also had its fair share of blowouts. However, there were 2 really close games and 1 semi-competitive game. Sadly, the finals ended in the most underwhelming way possible as the Lakers just straight up gutted Miami in Game 6. But for what we got earlier in the series, it is better than the previous series mentioned. Obviously, the main thing with this is the no crowd. That did heavily impact the entertainment level of this finals, is the fact that there was no cheering, no home court advantage, none of that extra entertainment and the energy that the fans bring. But due to it going to a Game 6, I definitely would prefer a Game 6 with no fans than say 5 games of blowouts like we've seen from the previous series. At number 6, we have this past year's finals, the Nuggets vs Heat. Now, even though everybody's saying, oh, it's so underwhelming, it actually is the 6th best finals out of the past 10, considering the fact that even though it ended in 5 games, the crowd reactions were electric. Denver fans, you guys should be proud of yourselves. You have one heck of a fan base that came out and was loud. And in addition to that, there was some close, entertaining games in this series. Even though it ended in 5, all 3 games in Denver were really close up until the end, including the final game of the finals, which is always great to have the final game being back and forth, so I'm glad that we got that compared to all the previous finals we've seen. I will say the 2 games in Miami both were blowouts. The Miami games were not entertaining at all, but all 3 Denver games were very intense, including Game 2, which came down to the final shot. Game 1 was back and forth, and of course, Game 5, the elimination game. I wish Jimmy Butler put up more of a fight entertainment-wise, but we can't deny that we saw some historical performances on the other side by Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Honestly, this Nuggets team that won is the most dominant team in my opinion since the Kevin Durant Warriors, and the NBA will be in trouble for the next couple of years as long as this team stays together. But this finals, even though it ended in a quick 5 games, the games within the finals weren't bad. We are now entering the upper half of the finals of the past 10 seasons. Coming in at number 5, we have the Cavaliers vs Warriors 2015 matchup. Now this had the opportunity of being a really good NBA finals, just like the finals after this in 2016. Obviously LeBron and Kyrie against Curry and Klay is a great matchup, but sadly the injury gods did not see it that way. The finals started off good, series tied 1-1 in 2 decently close games, especially the second game. However, Kyrie got a season-ending injury that would sideline him for the rest of the series and completely change the course of this finals. You could argue that the Cavaliers were going to win this finals with a healthy Kyrie and LeBron, but with just LeBron, there's only so much he could do. Game 3 was another close game, and Cleveland somehow managed to take a 2-1 series lead, but then the last 3 games the Warriors won each, and in dominant fashion. None of the games were that entertaining, none of them were close. Obviously LeBron was struggling without Kyrie, but it's always interesting to think about what could have been. Could this finals been almost as good as the 2016 NBA finals if we saw 2 fully healthy teams? The way it was going, this definitely would have been a competitive finals. But sadly, that is something that we did not get. Overall, it is better than the previous finals considering it went to 6 games. Many of the games were close, and the star power in this finals was pretty good. At number 4, we have another NBA Finals that was heavily impacted by injury, and we have the 2019 NBA Finals between the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. Now, looking at the games themselves, they were actually really high quality. You look at Game 2, which featured Andre Iguodala's clutch shot. In Game 5 was an extremely close game, and it all ended with a Kyle Lowry attempt to win the entire finals that did not fall. And then Game 6, the final game of the NBA Finals, ended up being really close towards the end. So 3 amazing quality finals games. The other 3, not so much, but they were competitive and the atmosphere was great on both sides. Toronto has one heck of a fan base, and the Warriors' Roracle Arena is called that for a reason. So it was a very loud NBA Finals. Now you may be wondering, with all of this into effect and the star power between these 2 teams, why isn't this higher? And for the main reason is that this finals was the most injury-plagued finals we've seen in these past 10 years. 2 out of the 3 best players from Golden State had season-ending injuries that also extended into the following season. Obviously, everybody knows Kevin Durant came back from injury in Game 5, only to have an ACL tear that would sideline him for the rest of the series and the next season. And then everybody knows of Klay Thompson's ACL tear in Game 6. 2 major players on the Warriors, 2 of their 3 best players, out for the remainder of the series. It was Curry with Draymond, Livingston, Iggy, and Boogie, I guess. Besides them though, honestly the rotations were filled with bench warmers, so they were not deep at all. Compared to the Raptors, who had a very healthy team with Kawhi, Kyle Lowry, and much more. That being said, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that if the Warriors were fully healthy, they win this series. So as far as an entertainment aspect, the series was pretty good. However, in the back of your mind, whenever you think of this finals, you always think about the fact that if the Warriors were fully healthy, there's no way Toronto takes this. That being said, I loved watching these finals, but it just feels very tainted knowing that the series would have been completely different with a healthy Warriors team. Like I said, injuries are a part of the game. This is not taking away from the Raptors' ring at all. They deserve it. But from an entertainment aspect, when you think about that, it does kind of dampen the feeling of success here. But overall, a really good NBA Finals. That's why it's here at number 4. At number 3, we have the second to last NBA Finals, and this is the Warriors versus the Celtics. Healthy squads on both sides of the ball, 2 very passionate and successful franchises going at it, Finally, the Jays make a finals appearance and the Warriors having a chance to continue their dynasty success, and that is what they did in 6 games. So the series wasn't over quick, it was a lengthy series. Solid games throughout, some blowouts and some close games, but we'll get into those in a second. But overall, this was a pretty underrated finals in my opinion. Even as a Celtics fan, I enjoyed watching this finals, even though my Celtics obviously lost. Which just goes to show how great the finals was. There was chippiness, star power on both sides. I guess the main complaint people have with this finals is that there was no game out of the 6 that ended in a single-digit deficit. Every win was by 10 points or more, which is kind of misleading. People think due to this fact no game was close, but that is very misleading as a lot of these games were close up until the final 2 or even last minute, where a team just started knocking down everything. Game 1 is a prime example of this, as the Celtics were down by 15 with only a couple minutes left in the 3rd. The Celtics rallied back and made a comeback and tied it up with only a couple minutes left in the 4th, and then they just started knocking down everything. So that game was actually a close comeback that is overlooked. Both games 3 and 4 in Boston were competitive the whole way throughout, except each team's win in Boston, they started pulling away in the final minutes with shots hitting down and intentional fouling, so the scores looked more drastic than it actually was. But I will say Game 5 was a little underwhelming, and then obviously Game 6 did not end in a way that anybody wanted it to, as the Warriors just dominated the whole game. That being said though, for what we got, a 6-game series, healthy teams, perfectly determining which is the true NBA champion, some solid games, a lot of star power, memorable plays. This finals was really good and honestly pretty underrated. Just missing out on the best finals in the past 10 seasons, we have the 2021 Bucks vs Suns series. Now this is a really underrated finals as well, and there's a lot of amazing things to unpack with this finals. A lot of the things I have to say about the last finals apply here, except the games in this finals were much closer. So obviously you have Giannis's heroic performance in the finals, scoring 50 in Game 6, ending the series, and also coming back down from a 2-0 deficit. So you also have that comeback in the finals narrative, which really helps the entertainment value here. As the series progressed, the games got much closer. Games 1 through 3 were all pretty solid games, some games a little distance between the two teams. But the final 3 games, games 4, 5, and 6, were all close, all blood-pumping victories that we've seen, and they all have very iconic moments about them. You look at Game 4, and that had Giannis's insanely clutch block on Ayton that changed the course of that game, and that tied the series at 2 apiece. In the following game, in Game 5 in Phoenix, Giannis, of course, has that iconic alley-oop play from Jrue Holiday, where he had that and one dunk on Chris Paul to ice the game, right after Jrue Holiday's clutch steal, of course. And then in Game 6, it was just pure back and forth in an elimination game finals. Everybody loves to see it. Giannis scoring 50 points, electric reactions from the crowd, and just great basketball throughout. The last 3 games of these finals were so entertaining. I can remember them all picture perfectly watching them with my friends. And that tells you something. That's when you know it's a memorable game. And it stinks that we haven't had a finals like this in the past couple of years. And with all those reasons combined, this is why I think it is the second best finals that we've had in the past 10 seasons. But as the best NBA finals in the past 10 seasons, this should be really no surprise to anybody, with insane star power on both sides. One of the most iconic plays in NBA history, a 3-1 comeback on the best team record in NBA history, and the only finals to go to a Game 7 in the past 10 years. We have the 2016 matchup with the Warriors and the Cavaliers. Where do I even begin to start? Now, in my opinion, this actually is an overrated finals, but it's just at such a high level in general. Despite it being kind of overrated, it still places at number 1. Now, let me explain why it's overrated first. Let me get the negatives out of the way before I go into this long list of positives. The main negative is that really barely any games were actually close in this finals. Really only games 4 and 7 were close. Game 4 was close throughout the way until Cleveland pulled away in the final minutes. And then obviously everybody knows how Game 7 is one of the greatest NBA games of all time, which is one of the reasons that this finals is the best that we've seen in the last 10 years. But every other game was either a comfortable win or a blowout. Game 1 was decided by 15 points. Game 2, 23. Game 3, 30. Game 5, 15. Game 6, 14. Besides the 2 games I mentioned, really lopsided games from the rest of the series. Except let me now address the positives. You have 2 of the best players from this era on both teams. You have a rematch from the previous year before, and finally both teams are healthy, for the most part. And there was a lot of extra lore added to this series. So obviously the Warriors got off to a really hot 3-1 start, and at that point everybody's writing off the Cavaliers. This Warriors team was historically good, finishing with the best regular season record in NBA history, and here they are with a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. And then when they're up 3-1, you have Klay's iconic press conference, where he says that LeBron just got his feelings hurt, and that is where everything completely changed. Down 3-1, a deficit that has never been achieved in the NBA Finals, LeBron James does his best Michael Jordan impression and took things personal. He used that momentum to absolutely obliterate the Warriors in Game 5, Game 6 with another convincing victory, and then Game 7. Now, this entire Finals relies on Game 7. If Game 7 was a blowout game from Golden State, nobody really remembers this Finals as being anything special. But lucky for every NBA fan, that did not happen. A very defensive-heavy game, both teams scoring below 100 points, scrappy, chippy, and it all came down to the final minutes of the game. And I'm pretty sure everybody knows what happens in these final minutes. LeBron James' iconic clutch block, arguably the best defensive play in NBA history, Kyrie's insane step-back 3 over Curry, and the final moments were very intense as well. The Cleveland Cavaliers somehow completed the 3-1 comeback, and LeBron finally gave his home state of Ohio a championship ring. What an NBA Finals. There's so much storyline to this, so much insane lore and backstory going into this Finals, along with the most insane Game 7 we've seen. All of that leads to this being clearly the best Finals in the past 10 seasons. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I appreciate all the support I've gotten lately. Like I said, comment any video suggestions you guys want to see me make. This video was suggested by a viewer, and so have my last couple of videos. So guys, I listen to your suggestions. Your suggestions are the favorite videos that I create. I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next Heaps video.